Joining me now from our bureau in Washington, D.C., Trump 2020 Advisory Board member and former RNC Finance co-chair, Mica Mosbacher. Mica, if this turns out the way I think it might turn out, this guy is a lone wolf. Obviously, he's a wacko if he is the perpetrator here. And I use that term advisedly, wacko. And I mean it kindly as well. The bottom line is, unfortunately, from the early images that I have seen, this plays right into the mainstream media's hands, plays right into the Democrat machine's hands. This guy's van was apparently plastered with pro-Trump, anti-Hillary, anti-Bernie, CNN sucks, all kinds of stuff. So you know what's going to happen over the next week as we lead into the election. This is a silver-plated October surprise, almost tailor-made for the Democrat machine.
No doubt they'll make hay while the sun shines, but he actually fits the stereotype, but so does the Bernie Sanders supporter who opened fire during the congressional baseball shooting. So we can point fingers at both sides. What I found really disappointing was the CNN substandard reporting on this, blaming President Trump for inciting violence was laughable. Additionally, I am so proud that former police commissioner Bernie Kerik, who led the 9/11 investigation, walked off the set of CNN after they allowed John Brennan to rant about the president for 10 minutes. I think it's high time in this country that we stop and look in the mirror and stop encouraging those individuals who look at those who have opposing viewpoints as public enemy number one. I mean, Sarah Sanders couldn't go into a restaurant in Lexington, Virginia. A number of conservative voices have been censored. I personally have received death threats. I think it's time to tone down the rhetoric on both sides, and I think the media could set a good example. And our crews in New York did talk to Bernie Kerik, and we will hear about that conversation in just a couple of minutes on this program. And that's what this program is all about. This program is about the truth, measured truth, quantified only by one thing, and that's the United States Constitution. But when you look at this entire episode, it appears to be amateur hour, not only in the reporting that you're talking about in the mainstream media, but also by the apparent perpetrator. I mean, he had a device that didn't have a detonator, a clock that apparently didn't work, but my alarm clock goes off every morning. For sure, you can set your watch to my alarm clock because it goes off. It works, unlike these pipe bomb clocks, apparently. And my alarm clock goes off to the mainstream media. And I heard this morning, again, the same thing that you were just talking about, that they are tying this to Trump critics. They're calling it critics of President Trump. Not the fact that Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, well, Bernie Sanders wasn't a recipient of this, but he certainly would be in the crosshairs of a crazy person like this. But Barack Obama and Clapper and the rest of them, not that they are people who stand against liberty and against the United States Constitution well before Donald Trump even came on the scene. These are people who are attacking our freedom and our liberty in this republic. That's the common thread. It's not Donald Trump. It's their attack on liberty. Also, an attack on social media, on conservatives and their First Amendment rights. Trump discussed today on Twitter how his followers have dropped. Mine, for example, dropped 16K over the last 3 months. And I think that we really need to look to Congress to see about regulating the censorship going on Facebook, Google, and other areas in social media. Don't you agree?
Well, that's kind of another show. I'm a First Amendment kind of guy. But what I will tell you this, speaking of the First Amendment, is that this issue knocked the caravan off the headlines, right? Again, this is the perfect fodder, the perfect kind of content for the Democrat machine to just chew on, and wall-to-wall content for the next 6 or 7 days as we lead into the election. So the caravan is still out there, and now I'm hearing the mainstream media criticizing DHS Director Kristen Nielsen for going down to the border and making sure that the border is secure. It's as if they want her instead to go to Cory Booker's office or check on James Clapper instead of doing her job down at the border and making sure that the invasion from the South, the impending invasion from the South, is repelled.
Absolutely. And she gave an exclusive interview yesterday, and she had to reassure followers that no individual attempting to come into the country would be shot, that they would go through process of repatriation, and also that President Trump intended to send down military troops to enforce our borders. And, you know, that's a message that the Democrats seem to be running on. In addition to this crazy media narrative about suspicious bomb packages, they're running on open borders. So that's one of their messages, and they're running on fear. And I like to say that the Dems right now are all hat, no cattle. They don't have anything but to continue to drive home the fact that perhaps Donald Trump is inciting violence. So I think that really is an empty message.
It is. It absolutely is. And isn't it interesting that they're saying that Donald Trump is talking about the caravan and this pending invasion just to keep the troops rallied, just to keep GOP voters engaged? No, he's doing his job as president of the United States. Now, you are a former co-chair of the finance portion of the RNC. When you step back and you look at what's happening right now in the final days, well, we've got 10, 11 days left, we're seeing certain races. For example, Texas 32, Pete Sessions, no one would think that that would be much of a challenge, but apparently it is. We have a longtime congressman in California, Dana Rohrabacher, California 48, who's also being challenged, and there's a lot of money pouring into these races. It used to be likely Republican at the very least, if not solid Republican, but not anymore. When you step back and you look at the big picture now, just a little over a week away from the November election, as former co-chair of finance at the RNC, how do you see this picture developing just for the House of Representatives?
Well, first of all, I'm very optimistic we'll keep the House, and one of the reasons is that in looking back, we never in an election cycle raised at the RNC over $260 million. For the first time ever, there's 585 trained individuals on the ground conducting door knocks, supervising 25,000 plus volunteers. This is an extraordinary ground game. So there's momentum there within the RNC. I think that also we've got the Trump factor. He will have completed over 30 plus rallies, going to states mostly where he won, but also going to states like Nevada, where Hillary won, but where Dean Heller actually has a 6-point lead. Texas, $69 million poured into Beto O'Rourke. That's a losing battle. Texas is ruby red, and definitely I see Cruz winning, but no doubtedly there are some liberal spots in Texas and Dallas and also Harris County, Houston. But look at Michigan. The first time a Republican has won that state since 1988, and John James is running a really good campaign and has an opportunity to pick up that seat there. So I think that we could see some losses. We're focusing some on California, where there are at least 5+ seats that the Democrats have a good chance of taking. But then we have other places as well that I think we have an opportunity to pick up seats, such as in Indiana, again, in another state that Trump won handily.
If the Democrats do regain control of the House of Representatives, it's going to be political triage for the White House for the next 2 years. Let's face it, the Democrats are going to light this non-constitutional fire, and the mainstream media is going to fan the flames. And if this happens, and again, I hope it doesn't, and I appreciate your optimism, but if it does happen, I blame not the Democrats, I blame the Republicans. I think this is maybe the biggest blown opportunity, the biggest political malpractice in the history of that great party dating back to Abraham Lincoln. Mica, thank you.